Hi everyone. In today's video, I'm going to be covering Stranger Things characters and when they came closest to dying in the show. Of course, in every season of Stranger Things, there's monsters they have to fight, uh, government that wants some of them dead or compromised, and other third parties that get involved in a violent way. So there's a lot of danger in every season of Stranger Things. So a lot of these characters have almost died many times or have been in a group setting in which they've almost died. But for this list, I'm going to be going through when they individually came closest to dying. Though Stranger Things is heavily criticized for not killing off enough main characters through its first 4 seasons, there are a few characters that have died, most of which haven't been in the show from the very beginning, though. Here's a list of a lot of the characters we've lost so far. So I'll kick it off with Nancy, and I think Nancy's closest experience to death is in season 4 when Vecna is in her mind. To me, season 4 showed that basically the most dangerous thing that can happen to you in this show is Vecna being in your mind because of how powerful he is. Really, the only reason Nancy doesn't die in season 4, episode 7 is because, like Steve points out, Vecna chose for her not to die. If he wanted to kill her, he could have snapped his fingers and killed her in an instant. And to me, it doesn't get much more dangerous than that. For Jonathan, I think his closest to death experience is in season 1 when the Demogorgon is on top of him inside of his house in the living room. The Demogorgon kind of knocks him down and then drools on him and opens his mouth right in his face and looks like he's about to, eat him or whatever. And then Steve luckily comes in and saves the day with the bat with spikes in it. Both Jonathan and Nancy were also attacked in a big way by the Mind Flare in season 3. That was also a very dangerous situation for both of them, but I felt like these other situations I mentioned for them were a little more specific and a little bit more of direct danger and directly one more action could have led to their death. As for Steve, I think his closest to death experience is in season 4 when he kind of gets dragged into the upside down when he goes searching in the water for clues, and the bats are kind of gnawing at his sides as season 4, episode 6 fades away. And, we're left wondering if Steve is going to survive this ordeal. But Nancy, Robin, and Eddie all dive into the gate in the bottom of the lake to go into the upside down and save Steve. Certainly, if they wouldn't have come into this water gate in support of Steve, he would have died as well. Steve's death was also heavily hinted at in season 4, volume 2. I think they were trying to lead us on with that, but they never ended up going anywhere with it. And he honestly was in some of the least danger in volume 2 of season 4 of any of the characters. For Hopper, I think it's pretty self explanatory. At the end of season 3, Stranger Things faked Hopper's death, made us, be completely convinced that he was dead. Personally, I think Hopper's character arc up to this point was so good, and I think this was the perfect conclusion to his character. Now, they decided to bring him back for season 4, something that's kind of controversial and has added to the dialogue about, Stranger Things never killing off main characters. And I do think this is a situation where they probably should have left him dead, though I really loved David Harbour's performance as Hopper in season 4, and I think Hopper still added a lot of value. And, it was cool seeing, kind of Stranger Things happening across the world in a Russian setting. I do think he probably should have stayed dead. I think it was the perfect death. I mean, even going back to that scene where Eleven reads the letter from him, everything was just perfectly aligned. The Duffer Brothers did a great job writing his death, but I guess they just didn't have it within them to hang on to that, and they had to bring it back. But um, that is his closest to death experience. It was super well done, and it's pretty controversial that they brought him back for season 4. Next is Joyce, and if you think about it, other than in group settings where literally all of them could have died, such as at the end of season 2 when they're all standing in the house and the Demogorgon is about to attack, but Eleven comes back and saves them, or in season 3 in situations with Hopper where they're kind of getting shot out by these Russian maniacs. Joyce really hasn't been in a lot of specific danger where just her life is at stake, but the moment that I thought of is season 2 when Will is choking her out as they're trying to get the particles out of Will so that he can be freed of this evil. Like I said, other than that, Joyce hasn't had a lot of scenarios where she's been the one specifically in danger. Next, I have 11, and I think I had to mention 2 moments here. One is at the end of season 3. Certainly at the end of season 3, not knowing as much as I know now, I thought there was a chance that 11 died, even though she was the main character of the show. She had lost her powers, of course, and this was the first time she had to deal with this. And, when Billy throws her over his shoulder and takes her out to the mind flare, I certainly thought there was a great chance that, she could have died there. It was her first time without her powers, and she probably didn't know how else to fight this. But luckily, she came up with something in the moment, tapping into Billy's emotions and, bringing the humanity back out of him. Not to mention, she was basically already infected by the mind flare in season three because of the fight she previously had with it. So there were a lot of problems with her at the end of season three, and she was in a lot of danger. I also want to mention in season four, fighting Vecna, Vecna definitely got the best of her this time, unlike in the past, because of the flashbacks they show us. But certainly for a while there, it seemed like Vecna could have finished her if he wanted to, but he wanted her, to watch him kill her friends, which is obviously super evil. But I definitely think Vecna could have killed her if he took the chance he had. But now we're going to have to see what happens in season five. As for Will, I don't think I have to spend too much time on this, but it's definitely season one when, he's hiding in the Upside Down from the Demogorgons trying to survive. And then he is eventually resuscitated by Hopper and his mother. Max also has a pretty clear answer here. And it's in season four when, once again, there's another fake death. We think Max dies. She actually does technically die for over a minute, it's revealed. But 11 brings her back to life. So once again, it's kind of a fake death scenario. And we're left with her in a coma at the end of season four. But yeah, that was certainly super close to Max dying. Basically, all of her limbs broke, I think maybe except her right arm. Her eyes are like, I think she might be blind now. So definitely a super near death experience for Max. Next is Lucas, and I actually think of all the main characters in the show, he's been in the least direct danger of any of them, probably. Lucas really just hasn't found himself in a scenario where it's like he is staring death in the face and it's just him. Now, of course, he's been in many situations where the whole group has been in danger and he's been part of that. Like in season three, when the mind flare is destroying Hopper's cabin and trying to take 11 away, or in season two when the Demogorgons are trying to get into the buyer's house, basically to get all of them, and he was a part of that as well. But Lucas, like I said, has just never been the specific target of danger, it seems. So I guess I would just have to say his nearest to death experience is in season four when he fights Jason, because Jason does like hit him over the head with that piece of glass or whatever, and Jason also shoots at him in that encounter. And if Lucas wouldn't have ducked and went to tackle him, theoretically, obviously Jason's shot, it could have hit Lucas and killed him. And also in that fight, he got beat up pretty bad. And Jason was in the type of mood that night where it seems like he might have stopped at nothing. So he was definitely in some good danger there. But compared to other characters, he hasn't been threatened a lot by the monsters or, some of the other factors in the show as much. For Dustin, I have the bats in the Upside Down in season four because we saw Eddie die as a result of trying to buy more time for the group that was going into Vecna's lair to kill him. And first of all, if Dustin would have been more involved in that and would have gone with Eddie, obviously he had already jumped back through the gate to the real world, though. But if he would have been with Eddie in that encounter, he would have been in grave danger. And also, even before he's able to get back to the real world, the bats were about to break through the door and get to both of them. So I think that's the most danger Dustin has been in, but he also hasn't been that much of a target most of the time. Certainly in season three, when him, Robin, Erica, and Steve are in the underground Russian lair, there's some scenarios where they're in a lot of danger. But honestly, that's more so for Steve and Robin because they were the two that were captured. Dustin did break back in and set them free, which put him in some danger. And they were later, getting hunted down by the Russian guards in the mall. But he still wasn't in all that much danger in that situation. You never really felt like his life was in a lot of danger. For Murray, I would say his closest to death experience is the season 4 plane crash. And once again, near the end of the list here, I think I thought of a lot of the ones that had big near death moments early on in this video. And, as the action is trickling down here, I'm getting to people who had less high stakes near death moments. Murray in this season 4 plane crash, yes, technically in a plane crash, you have a high chance of dying, but there was like a comedic feel to this whole scene. So you definitely knew that they weren't going to end it off with Murray and Joyce dying in a plane crash. They had the plane, kind of land as good as possible in a crash, and they were both able to survive very well. And, there really just isn't another moment in the show where Murray is in imminent danger, he puts himself in situations where he could be in danger, but he usually executes well so that he's not even seen, such as in season 3 when, he shuts off the things that he needs to shut off, so that Joyce and Hopper can carry out their duties in shutting off the transformer or the big machine underground that's trying to open up the gate. So Murray has been putting himself in more and more danger. He's just never really come close to dying. As for Mike, I think his closest experience to death is in season 1 when he jumps off the cliff to save Dustin from losing his teeth. But of course, 11 makes him fly basically with her telekinesis powers, saves him, lifts him back up from, about halfway down on his fall, the whole way back up to the top of the cliff, and saves his life, and then punishes the bullies in the process. I have 2 more characters to go, and one of them is Erica Sinclair, and I think Erica's nearest death experience is also in the season 3 underground Russian lair, even though, once again, just like Dustin, she's never really captured or the specific target in any of the violence or the questioning that goes on in that situation. But, one wrong move and it could have been trouble for her and Dustin. So that is probably her nearest to death experience. She's not in the show as much as a lot of these other characters, so she hasn't had as much time to get herself in a lot of trouble. And the last character I have to cover for today is Robin. And once again, I think Robin's closest experience to death is with the Russians in season 3, as she is held there for questioning. Her and Steve are captured, and without Dustin setting them free, who knows what would have happened to them. Also, I forgot to mention throughout this video that Robin, Steve, and Nancy are kind of being suffocated by the vines in season 4 for a while, but I don't know. Personally, as a viewer, I knew that they just weren't going to kill off these characters in this fashion. For characters with as much emotional depth and background as the characters in Stranger Things have, you definitely have to have like a more emphatic death scene for them. So I knew that they weren't going to die there. Technically, yes, they were beginning to get choked and were in a rough situation. But to me, that wasn't like a scenario where I actually thought they were going to die. I definitely thought something worse could happen to them when they were captured in the Russian lair. And I thought that was a harder situation to get out of, or one that I couldn't foresee as much as an audience member compared to in season 4 when they were held up by the vines. I kind of knew that the events going on somewhere else would probably set them free. So thank you for watching this video. I hope it was informative in seeing where these Stranger Things characters have come closest to death. And in season 5, I know a lot of people are hoping to see some characters, some main characters that are super prominent, finally die. And I don't think it's because we don't like these characters, but it's because we want the stakes to always feel real. And especially in season 5 now, there's no excuse for the Duffer Brothers to really keep them alive any longer. There's nothing to save them for. Being that it is the last season of the show, I personally am expecting 3 main character deaths. That's the number that I think makes the most sense. These characters have been through just so much, and it will certainly make it interesting to see who finally dies in season 5. Let me know in the comments if I missed anything, or if there's some moments for these characters that they come closer to death that I missed. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video and you want more Stranger Things content moving forward as we approach season 5. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.